Hello and welcome to the 2025 Tucson Festival of Books. My name is Carl. I'm with the Pima County Public Library, and joining me today are Ava and Lauren, two of our virtual volunteers. We're here with author Alexa Donne, and we're going to chat about life, writing, and her latest book, The Bitter End. Take it away, Ava and Lauren.
What is your favorite murder mystery game?
Oh, that's a great question. Probably Clue, just because it's a classic, and I also love the movie, which is why there's multiple references in the book. But the actual board game, I just love the deduction and the logic and the characters and the movie.
That's really cool.
Counts, right?
There are a lot of murder mystery games, so yeah, that's cool.
One of the other questions that we wanted to ask is, what was your high school experience like?
To give you an idea of how much I loved high school, I voluntarily left high school for an entire year. I spent my junior year of high school in Germany as a high school foreign exchange student. Oh. So I fled to another country for a year because high school was awkward. I was kind of a nerdy weirdo, as many of us are. I liked books, and I did grow up in a slightly different time when it was not cool to be nerdy or like science fiction fantasy. So I kept it a secret that I loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer and that I was in fandom. Mm-hmm. And so I was just little nerdy, little weird. And high school's hard in general, and friendship is hard, which is why I love exploring friendship and toxic friendships and messy people in the YA books I write. But yeah, I went for my entire junior year. I came back, all of my friends had basically forgotten about me and moved on. Senior year was incredibly depressing. I also had to catch up on credits, and they basically forgot about me. I didn't get a single senior superlative. Tragedy. My life is tragedy. But I joke about it. But it was also perfectly normal. Nothing terrible happened. It was just kind of this is also a dated reference. I was Daria. I was very much a Daria, too cool for school, I see all of you, this is the height of your life, but I'm gonna go be cool, which is a coping mechanism, but it's also kind of true.
Must have been awesome to go to Germany, though.
It was amazing,
which makes you cool, in my opinion, all that. It's got out of the country.
Yeah, it was great. I lived with a host family. I had to become fluent in German. I was in the former East Germany. Okay. And that was in 2000, 2001, so it was pretty fresh off of reunification. So people really did not speak English. I had to speak German or it would have been pretty bad for me. And it was just, it had ups and downs, as those experiences do. My first host family was a little wackadoo, so I had to change host families. There are all sorts of cultural differences I had to grapple with, but I just loved not being at high school so much. It was like college. High school there is like college. You have a staggered schedule, and you don't have the same classes every day, and they don't care if you don't show up. I was a responsible-ish student. I was a perfect attendance in the United States, not so much in Germany, but we don't do as I did. I had a great time though.
So what kind of high school did you attend in the U.S.? Was it a prep high school like the one in the book?
No, I attended a pretty basic public school in Atlanta, Georgia. One of the better schools in Georgia. Georgia notoriously, at the time, didn't have the best schools, but I went to one that was in the top 500 Newsweek rankings, so it had resources, but it was some disappointing things. You watch television shows and movies and you're I want to be in the drama club and be in a musical and a theater. No, they were in the high school cafeteria, and it was really kind of normal high school is what I mean, very basic. But I love prep schools because it's how the other half lives, and you can do all sorts of fabulous things with rich people with too much, time and power and whatnot. But that's why I went with prep school in this and boarding school in another. I've written one public school, one normal-ish school. That was modeled on my actual high school, my predated Queens. That was basically my school, kind of, but set in Northern California, where I have not lived. So.
Yeah, we were very curious about where you got like your inspiration for using like prep schools and yeah, that. I think. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah. So it's not on the sheet, but I wanted to ask you this. Who's your favorite character in the book?
Oh, so there's the honest answer, which is kind of a spoiler, and then there's the nicer answer, which is not a spoiler. Which one do you want?
You guys finished,
Well, we've all
right?
read the book.
Yeah, we've all read it.
Okay,
We've read it in
yeah,
its
yeah.
entirety, so.
There are no
Delaney
spoilers.
is my absolute favorite. I had a ball writing her, and she is so much fun. I mean, I don't want to meet her, but I love her a lot. She's fabulous. Just awful, but amazing. My favorite chapter to write, well, run of chapters, is basically the end when she's just mask off, like, and just being crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you put yourself in the headspace to think like a teenager going through all of the drama? Like, how do you get yourself there?
A variety of ways. I definitely do inspo, so I'll like binge watch series or movies that have like a vibe. Like I'm way past my CW days, but when needed, I will binge watch some of those shows and be glad I'm not in high school anymore. And then just like sitting down. Playlists. I forgot playlists. So I'll have playlists that are like songs from when I was in high school that like reflect the mood, that kind of, like Garbage and Fiona Apple and like all that kind of stuff, to kind of tap into all of those feelings that I had at the time. And then just sitting down and kind of, figuring out the messy relationships and kind of getting in the headspace and getting in my feelings. Which sounds really dramatic. Like I'm not like sitting like crying over my keyboard, but it's like a combo of just, I think YA writers, we're grown-ups, but we have an ability to remember exactly what we felt like at that age, within reason. The hardest part, honestly, is remembering I am an adult and I can think reasonably about things, and then sometimes removing some of that emotional reasoning, because when I was 17, I wasn't that smart. I had tunnel vision, like, how could you do this to me? And I have to tap into kind of that emotional like state. Every once in a while I do read my journals from when I was in Germany, and I'm so embarrassed, and I tap into that cringe.
I was so curious. I'm like, I wonder if she actually goes back and reads like a journal of hers.
And that's the thing, it was the big feelings of like everything is a big deal, and like, things where now I'd be like, oh man, that friend that did that, they must have really been going through it, but at the time it was like, I hate her. Like, what a horrible person. I'm just kind of remembering that kind of tunnel vision. Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
So another question we have for you, is the bitter end a morality tale?
That's a great question. I don't think so. I think I'm saying things. I definitely have opinions. My editor actually asked me, so are you anti-social media, anti-technology? I was like, no. I love social media and I like technology, but I've seen things and I have thoughts and opinions, and there are things maybe I wouldn't do, but also we've all been pulled into things that maybe we shouldn't have been pulled into, and been friends with people we maybe shouldn't have been friends with, and done things online that we know aren't good for us. And that's human to do those things and to falter. Then the question mark is like, what are you gonna do with that? Like, are you gonna lean into your worst impulses or not? Like, and I don't like to be too pedantic about like wagging fingers, and also the things thematically I was interested in exploring, like they're just reality. You can't go back. You can't shove things back in the bottle, so it just is. But I do have opinions about what's like healthy and not for us as humans, but it's also easy to say that from a position of like being further away. Like I can just turn off social media and walk away because I have, all this other stuff going on, but if I were 17, that would be different. I didn't grow up with it, so it's easier for me. I'm so glad my high school is not on the internet. All of that stuff is lost to time, and that is for the best.
Yeah, we came up with that question based on the characters of the story themselves and I'm not sure how accurate you'll feel about this statement, but we felt that your story was more setting based, and you drove a lot of it through like the circumstances the characters were in rather than the characters themselves. So that also kind of correlates to our, is this about morality? So what do you think about it being setting driven?
It's definitely setting driven. I mean, it's trope driven. I wanted to trap some teens on a mountain, kill them one by one, and a lot of the other stuff kind of it came from that. And I think that, like, it's definitely more setting and theme driven than character driven. And there's not one unifying thing with the characters, other than I do think there's something about friendship that's going on there, and I don't disagree. But yeah, I will say, like, just to the morality question again, as well, I do hope there's some reading between the lines of, like, you know, I had to kill some teens and I had to make them pretty terrible. But I also feel terrible for them, because a lot of what I put in here, it's actually their parents' fault. And there is some morality tale in that, like, especially Declan, and Elia to some degree. Declan is his parents' fault. Like, 100%. I mean, he's making his own choices because, you know, he's growing up. But I'm saying something about and Eden's parents as well. A certain kind of life that you grow up in LA, especially with wealthy parents who are chasing fame, and how does that trickle down? So I guess there's a little bit of morality in there. I have opinions about what I think is good or bad or right or wrong as a parent. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great, yeah.
But no, 100%, I just wanted to murder a bunch of people on a mountain, one by one. Yeah.
Remember, this is going on.
Can I jump in? Did Whodunit change as you were writing it?
That's a great question. So I actually, this book had a journey. I always start backwards. I start with the ending, with a motive, with a reason for murder, though sometimes it is a who. And this one, it was a why. And I wasn't sure who did it at first. I had options. I had, you know, I created the cast of characters, and I was like, 3 or 4 of you could do this. But the motive was completely different when I started this book. I actually completely changed it from the ground up when I was about halfway through. Don't do that. It was hard. And so essentially I picked who had done it. I picked Delaney, and it was Delaney. But when I changed the motive, I had to rework her entirely as a character. So she changed. Originally, she was very different, and she had a reason to do what she did. But because the reason changed, she had to change. And that's when I made her bonkers. And yeah, so she changed who she was, but she didn't change, like, the character didn't change. I had to graft some new stuff onto her, so to make it work. Because otherwise, I would have had to rewrite my book.
Yeah.
So I had a question specifically about one of the characters. Liam is very interesting to me because I don't know how to feel about him. So yeah. By the end of the book, I'm like, yeah, I really kind of don't like you.
He was nicer before.
Yeah.
By the time I made that decision, I was like, oh, I'm evil. Yeah. But he's very human.
Mm-hmm.
And he and Willa actually have the same fatal flaw.
Yeah.
They're both cowards, basically, and want to be liked, and will, you know, do what they have to do for that. But when that is your fatal flaw, what will you do? Yeah. Basically. But he's one of the ones where I'm like, you know what? I don't agree, but he'll probably be okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I hope he regrets some of his choices.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's ultimately, like, weak. He will take the easiest way to being comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's also, we're talking about morality tales, is also something that I just want to, like, it's very human, but, like, sometimes it's better to make the hard choice and go the other way. And don't kill people. Not that he did, but, you know, he could have. It's fine. Don't kill people, I think, is a pretty good lesson.
So, who would you say exactly is your audience for this? Because when we were reading, it felt almost like, I don't know if I can say this, like watching the Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
You just did.
Yeah.
I can edit
It
it
has
out.
influences, yeah.
Yeah, like it feels more like you're watching a drama that's not always super realistic and relatable because we are young adults.
Mm-hmm.
So who is your audience for this book? Is it teens reading it like jaw-dropping, or is it actually TV makers because you work in the TV industry?
Sadly, not on that side. My job is not that interesting. Very happy to have it. Meaning I don't have the power to like get my books made into things. I am a massive thriller fan, and I love commercial fiction and high concept fiction. So really, like, I wrote this as a fan, like a super fan of like high octane, kind of like crazy. I like things that are a bit dialed up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it for people who like those sorts of books. It's definitely not meant to be realistic.
Yeah.
You know, they're little outsized. I like the drama, and so it's an escapist read. It's for teens, but it is also for adults. I want adults who like this genre, who otherwise might not read YA, like who might not give YA thrillers a chance, to recognize, oh, I love Agatha Christie. I love this trope. I'll read this YA book, and it'll be a little different because it's different when you do it with 17 and 18-year-olds. I want, just people who want an escape, a page turn, like juicy and shocking. Like like I never take myself too seriously or my books too seriously. Like, they have themes because my editor loves themes, and I do also enjoy a theme, but I'm not trying to like wag a finger and like teach a lesson. I want to entertain, but also it's like popcorn can popcorn be good for you? Like it's not like hot water garbage trash, but it's not like, a fine meal. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at mixed metaphors, especially with regard to food.
We totally got that.
Yeah.
With the book. Like,
Yeah,
we got it, you know.
I just want you to have fun.
It was
Yeah,
fun. It
that
was a
was
really good book.
And I like a brain
Yeah.
twister. I do like to kind of but it has to, I do like logical consistency. Like, Delaney's wackadoo, but everything makes sense to Delaney. It all tracks. And that's very important to me. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that was very clear. I think you wrote it very well.
thank you.
Yeah, to fulfill it, I was kind of like reading it. I was reading it. I finished it within 2 days because I
want that.
I wanted to I knew it wasn't like supposed to be realistic. I knew that because I'm 17, so I can I know how 17-year-olds act because I direct them on a daily basis. But for me, I was like, okay, the point of this is to be a drama with things dialed up to 11. That is the point. So you achieve that. So good.
Yeah, it's page turner, it's entertainment, it's, a little brain food, like puzzling things together and putting together clues. Like, that's what I enjoy when I read a really good thriller. Like, especially, it's not even that a good thriller has to, trick you, it's the ride along the way. Like, how did you get? Was the experience good? And the bonus is if you don't guess everything, that's, nice. Especially when you read enough of them, you start to... my favorite is when an author gives me one twist and then tricks me with another. It's one of my favorite things.
Was COVID always in the book from the beginning, or did it creep in as time
It
by?
was always in the book, and it originally had a lot more, and that is what changed. It was very baked into the book, and I dialed it way back. I stand by my original concept ended up being a movie. Someone wrote, I have nothing to do with it, but Kevin Williamson wrote a movie that was exactly what I was going to do originally. So, yeah.
Time to revise?
No, it came out after I'd already changed
Oh,
the
okay.
book.
All right.
Because it was a little too, balancing the tone was a little bit too challenging, and so I chatted with my editor, and we just kind of went in a slightly different direction. So.
Okay.
Which works, because I really wanted to write a sociopath POV, and it facilitated that change. I was like, all right, Delaney, we're going all the way.
So what kind of research did you do to write that perspective?
I have been fascinated with abnormal psychology since I was a preteen. Like I used to read like college textbooks about like psychology textbooks. I would check them out at the library, and I like watched like that started because I saw the movie Copycat, which is a fabulous movie, and I just like what girl doesn't have a serial killer phase? So serial killer phase, and I just consumed a ridiculous amount of television, movies, books, fiction, but I read a ton of nonfiction. I've read pretty much every nonfiction book there is that really gets into like sociopaths, narcissists, like all of that kind of stuff. I've unfortunately met sociopaths and narcissists in life, and they absolutely inspire the thrillers. So it's like it's a combo plate. That the key is they can never know that they are in the book. You have to change it enough because they're very petty people and they will get you. So it's a combination. She has aspects of actual people I've met, but some of it's also research. If you see a narcissist in a book of mine, that is almost always based on a real person. So there are more narcissists in the world than sociopaths. So you've probably met one. Watch out.
Yeah.
Beware of charm, superficial charm.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of gonna like take some stuff from that question. Did the other people in the book, like, Wyatt, Eden, Piper, did they come from, are they based off of people, or are they based off more so like research?
That's a great question. They're archetypes for sure. They're partly inspired by the trope. I mean, Christie did the same thing. It's like these archetypes of terrible people who you're going to gather in one location. It was kind of like, some of it was just spitballing, like, okay, so what's like the wildest types of teens who might go to a ridiculous Los Angeles prep school, who kind of like, I like the idea of people trying to be celebrities and influencer culture. So some of it was just that. Some of it was bits and pieces of myself. You always give parts of yourself, both your good and your bad traits, to various characters. So Piper has a lot of me in there. I mean, they all do, even the terrible ones, don't tell. You have to be really honest with yourself sometimes when you write these books. So not so much research, but again, because I read so much nonfiction, it's also like, okay, well, I read about this, interesting person, and they have this one character trait that is completely outside of myself. Like, I don't think like that. I'll graft that onto a character. It's always like a combo plate of all these different things, and it's also hard because like you just do it and then you forget how you did it and can't explain how you did it. So it's like a combination of those. I almost never am directly inspired by directly inspired by real people. Seriously, like copy your homework and then copy it 4 more times so that they never know. That's the creative process. Good and bad. Even if you want to like pay homage to a person you like, it's still, I think, good to like do a little creative work on those characters.
Yeah. Okay, so what experience do you have with death? I'm sure that's kind of deep.
No, my last, I'm happy to talk about this, my last thriller, the central theme was grief, because it was based, not directly. So my mother passed away from cancer in 2019, and so that second thriller was, I just grafted myself onto that book, which was fun, but it kind of has echoed through my books. And when I started writing thrillers, I had not experienced that kind of loss and like actually directly experienced death beyond like, had grandparents pass away, but not that it didn't affect me as acutely or directly as losing a parent. And so when I wrote the IVs, I hadn't lost someone, and then she died while I was writing it, which just wasn't fun. And then I revised that with like more, like, I don't want to use the word realism, because how realism are you getting in a book like this when you're striking this kind of tone? But it changed the way that I write death. As fun as it is, and as much as you lean into it. So this book actually has a little bit less horrific reaction to some of the death, because it went in the last book, and my editor said, you already basically wrote that paragraph of what it's like to see a dead body. Don't do that again. So that some of that real stuff does end up in here, of like the numb horror of like what that is like, but sanitized, because no one actually wants to know. It's quite horrible, which that sounds so dramatic, but that is, so my most direct experience with death is like my mom, she was on home hospice care, and like it's really morbid and it was really sad, but that kind of ends up going in here. But at the same time, like, I always feel bad because, like, you'd think that I'd have deep empathy for all of these characters that I'm killing, and I do. That is why there's a line in here about how sad someone's parents would be, because I can't help but think about, like, you know, like, the people affected, but, like, it's awful. But, yeah, there's, like, little bits of kind of some of my philosophy, I suppose, on grief that works into these, but this is the high-octane, like, ridiculous, frothy thriller. The last one had some more of my more serious thoughts, like, you know, wakes and stuff and all that jazz.
Yeah. We did not get to read your other book,
Which
but
is
we did do our research on
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Would you like to?
Yeah. So I had a question that was kind of like lurking in the back of my mind because when I was reading the book, the relationships are kind of superficial, and it kind of, you know, makes sense if it's like, you know, a drama, like high octane, like, oh, like, you know, now I'm cheating. I was with this girl and now I'm cheating on her and stuff. So it's like, that's really also kind of like what shifted my thoughts about Liam a little bit, was like, you don't know what you want and you're hurting people in the process. Yeah. So my question is, like, where did that come from? Like, the idea to make the relationships like kind of shallow.
I definitely, part of it, in like a really frank, honest way, is I was never those kids, so I don't fully understand them. To be perfectly honest, I've never been beautiful or cool or popular, or like, you know, I definitely never dated a model, or, you know, son of a supermodel or been a model, but also that I was purposefully examining that this group of people, they are a little shallow, that their relationships are a little superficial, and all of them are using the others for what they can do for each other and for themselves. And that there's, you know, that superficial quality to their friendship, that they are technically friends, but they don't actually like each other,
Right.
And don't really know each other that well. I mean, and also that none of them are as perceptive as they think they are, which is, I have like a line in there, it's like, you find the theme while you write, and I wrote this line, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I was going for, that it doesn't matter who you are, it's what matters is what people think you are. And they're all performing in that sense, and so there is an intentional superficiality, and especially like my editor did ask, like, Delaney and Declan, like, do they need to have dated? I'm like, yeah, because it's a facile relationship. Like, I wanted it to be that was a superficial, shallow relationship, because they were like 15 years old, and it didn't matter, which is why they're so changeable. They're like, oh, bye, you're done, you're over, moving on. And that, so it was on some level intentional, but also, if just getting into kind of the weeds of technical stuff, it is so hard to keep track of 8 different people and deeply develop all of the intricacies of their relationship when you gotta start killing them. That's actually why there's only 8 of them and not 10. I don't know how Christy did it. So there's also that, like, the time, there's only so much time to kind of develop and spend with them. So it's like layers of answer. It's partly intentional and partly just technical, kind of the limitations of the format.
Did you have to go through lots of revisions with your editor for this one?
I always do. I love layering my writing. I actually like that part of the process. It takes the pressure off to nail it on the first go, especially with seeding clues, which is so hard. And just developing characters. I get to know them as I write the book, and I figure stuff out, and some twists I come up with as I'm writing. So I always do. I'm actually chronically terrible at this. I will write 70 to 80% of the book, stop, send it to my editor, and be like, here, or sometimes even 50%. And then I edit it before I finish it. I usually don't finish it until I've done a full developmental revision pass, at least one on the book, because I can't really finish a book until I know what I'm fixing already. This one had a lot of layered passes because of the dual timeline and all of the POVs. So this one had a lot more, and changing the twist halfway through, that too. A lot more rounds on this one. So
That's cool. So when, oh wait, I think I lost my question. Come back to me, please.
All right, that's fine. So this question kind of came up during this interview because I was thinking about it. Is Agatha Christie a big inspiration to you?
for the specific book, absolutely.
Okay.
She invented this trope. She is the master of this trope. Any book you read with this trope is an homage to Agatha Christie. And it was both an intentional inspiration and non-intentional. I didn't this doesn't beat for beat do, and then there were none. And the characters are not all direct proxies or ciphers. I'm not even technically examining the same theme. She already did it. We're good. Although I think there is something in examining justice and character in a story like this. So she's a massive inspiration for this, but not necessarily like everything I write, because she's huge, but her books are kind of hit and miss, especially if you read them in a modern context. Some of them are like
Product of her time.
Sorry?
Product of her time.
Product of her time, including in And Then There Were None. It has some delightful anti-Semitism that just smacked me in the face.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we're okay. And then the title changes on that one. But in terms of tone, pacing, perspective, and just kind of the thrill of the trapping them in a single location, the ticking clock, the people being bumped off, massive inspiration to this. But overall, I'm not a diehard Christie girly. I appreciate Christie, however, because you kind of can't write mystery and not. Every mystery writer is influenced by Agatha Christie, regardless of whether they've read her novels. And I honestly didn't start reading them until adulthood. I didn't grow up reading them. My gateway drug was The West End Game. That. I love that book.
What about Nancy Drew?
And Nancy Drew. That's the other one. I was definitely Nancy Drew. All those books. I read some Hardy Boys as well. Sweet Valley High mystery books, that kind of, era of fiction. And R.L. Stine and that's more thriller horror side, but yeah.
I feel like you want to go?
I had
Please.
my question and then I lost it again.
Yeah.
So clearly your demographic choice was very intentional. But if you were to write it from the perspective of the more average reader, what do you think would be the biggest change to the story?
If you mean making it more grounded, I would remove the influencer culture and the kind of larger than lifeness. They'd have to be more regular people, probably. And in fact, originally I was drawing out characters, every single one of them was chasing fame, and my editor was like, come on. So I pulled it back a little. So, tempering it slightly to make some of the characters larger than life and a bit more singular. But I think that's what really dials the novel in terms of them being almost parodies of human beings up an extra notch. That would be kind of it. But then also it's I would truly feel so terrible killing a bunch of normal teenagers. It's that extra barrier of oh, it's okay. They're terrible, So
I finally got my question. So when you are writing and you're seeding the clues, as somebody who, if I write anything, things that logically, make sense to me as I'm writing and details I would forget to include, when you have you and your editor who are going through the book and reading, you guys might have other details. Do you ever, have somebody else read it as well to find those inconsistencies?
Absolutely, and from the start of the process, on every book, they're called critique partners, people who read and give you feedback, and I like to say I have a football bench deep of critique partners. I like to have a lot of eyes on a book, especially a mystery, because fresh eyes are incredibly important. Once you already know the story, honestly, you're editing for something, but you are not going to be the most efficient editor for like that gut reaction and that first time read. So when I'm drafting, I always have at least 1 or 2 alpha readers, which are friends of mine who are total victims who read like my messiest writing. And that's to give me a gut check just as I'm going through that first draft, also so I can kind of bounce stuff off of them. But I'll send them something and I'll be like, is this too obvious? Like, and they're kind of getting feedback. I send my first drafts to 2 or 3 people, and all I ask them is, what do you suspect and when? And tell me. And also if things are confusing. And if too many people are nailing who it is, even if they don't know why, too early, I know I have more misdirection work to do. And then, through each subsequent draft, as my editor is doing it, I'll just send it to other people, and they just get progressively more polished versions. And I feel really good about something when I fool them the way I want to fool them. And so and then people at the publisher themselves, they have 5 or 6 pairs of eyes that end up going on this, fresh readers. It's always nice because the copy editor, the first time they read it, they're also reading it like a reader, because they do multiple passes. And not this one, but one of the best comments I ever got on a book, my second thriller, the copy editor left a note that I fooled them. And I was really proud. Their job is to look for clues because they do continuity. And I was like, yes, that's how I knew I did it. So yeah, I have 10 to 15 people read it before it is like approved to go to print. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but I at least feel confident that I accomplished more or less what I was setting out to accomplish. Whatever sleight of hand I had planned.
That's a cool answer. Thanks.
So, this may seem like a weird question, but the way that, the characters die, I found that was very interesting. Like, we have carbon monoxide, we have a fire, we have, a boy with a nut allergy.
It was smoke inhalation. And so all of the deaths technically have a theme that go to a book that isn't a book anymore. They all were part of the original motive and theme. All of the deaths involved respiratory distress, and that was intentional. But it doesn't mean anything now, and that's why, but I decided not to change it.
Right.
What did it mean?
Because it was originally about COVID.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I thought they were cool deaths. So I was like, these are cool ways to kill people. And the nut allergy one, that's the Christie homage. Like, that is the kind of like, chang. Like, if you're reading one of these, someone's gonna die from being given something they're allergic to.
A soup, there's something. Yeah.
It's almost always the first death as well.
Yeah.
That's just like an expected trope. But the rest of them, I was like, now I kind of like these deaths. Though someday I will trap someone under a pool cover. I was actually really sad. I was like, it doesn't make sense to do that in this one. It's too cold. But yeah, that's why there's a sauna instead.
Right on the sauna.
Yeah.
Also a terrible way to die. Fun fact, you really can't lock a sauna. I had to do a lot of research on that, on how to actually make that happen. So.
For all the times we've been told the sauna was locked.
But it's because people have died. That's why you can't lock them. Yeah.
Yeah, my papa has a sauna, and I remember as a kid, we were so scared of falling in and getting trapped underneath there.
Yeah, it's scary. So.
I grew up around them in Minnesota, so
exactly.
I also had to learn or research how to start a snowmobile because that is not a skill I have.
Yeah.
The things you look up, sometimes when I'm Googling, I'll just like type in case they're watching. This is for a book. I'm an author, not a serial killer. Because you literally, I had to Google how can you kill someone in a sauna? Can you lock someone in a sauna? So.
Yeah.
I was wondering what I was doing to my algorithms, and I was like, is Visine really dangerous?
It is. It really is. It'll kill you.
Yeah, that's my phone is now telling me that over and over again. I'm like,
it's
I know.
It's basically like an urban myth that it just like gives you diarrhea. In small amounts it can, but you should also call poison control and go to the hospital. You can die. It's people have used it to kill their spouses. That's So be careful what you drink.
As she takes a drink.
Outside of Google, like, how do you, and it your website does say like that you're a true crime fan. How do you find like the ways and research the ways that they're killed?
Great question.
How it works?
I watch a lot of Dateline, like a lot, a lot. Dateline for sure. I've watched every single episode of Murder, She Wrote multiple times. Just all the murder shows, really. Reddit, I'm on Reddit a lot.
Okay.
Chronically on Reddit, and you'd be amazed what you can learn on Reddit. Amazed.
Yeah.
All sorts of weird things. Some of this,
Okay.
and because Reddit, like, that's how you get fed interesting news stories often. The Visine thing, that's because like someone tried to kill their spouse that way. I'm pretty sure that's how I learned about it.
That is such a cool answer. Reddit.
That's your story.
Reddit. When I was on TikTok, but I'm no longer on TikTok because I can't get off TikTok when I'm on TikTok. And if I'm on TikTok, I will never write another book. So I've been cold turkey for a year. Yeah,
Wow.
it's hard. But you know, they serve you like true crime and like things of interest. Oh, YouTube videos. You can watch so much morbid, terrible stuff on YouTube. Yeah. And nonfiction. I read a lot of nonfiction, especially true crime nonfiction. So.
Would you ever be interested in writing a book that takes place in a setting of something horribly morbid? Like, for example, actually, I don't think that would work for you. But, like, I'll give it anyways. Like, in China, when the Japanese invaded, they did a lot of really horrible stuff in a lot of facilities that are now closed.
Yeah.
Since that is halfway across the world, I'm not sure that would work for you. But would something like that be of interest to you, writing in a place with a lot of history?
Yes, but I am a wuss. So anything that's a little too horror coded, I might not be the person to write that. Like if it's like a facility with a horrific history, I never say never. It just kind of depends on like what I get fascinated with and hyperfixated on, honestly. I say never to anything except I am a wuss, and so I won't do anything too gory or well, and also I am just, especially if it's like, it's not a never, but anything where it's like a history of like torture or like sexual assault are not always the things I'm going to gravitate
Well, yeah, this is
toward.
a YA.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also writing adult, so I really tend toward more like psychological, like the worst of humanity kind of stuff, and relationships and domestic stuff. So, but never say never on anything, because you never know where inspiration's going to come. Like someday I'll write something that involves a plane crash because I've watched over 100 hours of plane crash documentaries. Like I got to use it somehow. Oh, high altitude mountaineering. I've read over 20 books about that. Kill someone on a different kind of mountain. That is where all the quotes came from because I was reading a lot of those books. So I have recommendations. Into Thin Air is one of my favorite books of all time. So
That's really cool.
morbid fixations. Yeah, that's it. It can lead you to books.
So, I had another question about another one of the characters in this book, Silva. I feel so bad for
I
her.
feel so bad for her.
Yeah.
Like, so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I feel terrible. I also feel really bad about killing Camille. I have regrets. It's fine. But she had to die anyway. Because it's not her fault. But originally, changes in the editorial process. Originally, the guidance counselor was more directly involved, and I changed it. So I feel really bad.
Mm-hmm.
She trusted the wrong person.
Yeah.
And also that she is basically like my age and has a lot of my characteristics. So I basically killed myself. Fun fact. Yeah. There's nothing more upsetting than realizing you are the adults in the YA novel. You are the ones enforcing curfew. So yeah.
That doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
You'll get there eventually.
So the big party, especially where that was a turning point for the relationships, like the romantic ones, is like parties to you something special?
Absolutely. I think that, first of all, as a high schooler, I only went to a sum total of 2 my entire high school career. I was not cool. But no, there's something...
And they both sucked, right?
They were theater kid parties, so they were actually
Okay,
pretty
that's
chill.
right, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't go to, so I never went to a real high school party, right? Though in fairness, like a lot of what I end up putting away is from college anyway. Like, kind of coming back to the earlier thing about why a prep school. So I went to a private university on a scholarship, and I was surrounded by rich kids, including like kids who are related to famous people, as like the like scholarship kid from, you know, DC/Atlanta who like couldn't afford to go on spring break. So like I channel a lot of that into like some of the outsiders in high school. But you know, you'll attend a party and it's like there's something like magical where they start off so like everyone has such high hopes and expectations and you know, have thoughts of how fabulous it'll be, and then sometimes it's really awful, or you're like stuck by the food table, or like your boyfriend or girlfriend cheats on you, and the line in the thing is true. Like I am fascinated by that moment where a party reaches its apex and it's not good anymore, and it sours, and you just don't want to be there anymore. And I love that kind of arc of feeling. We've all been there or will be there, especially like drink responsibly, like not at all when you are teenagers, but like when alcohol is involved, it's not a good idea. Also, how awful and irresponsible are the adults in this book? They really should not have been drinking. And,
Yeah.
But they're influencers. That's the kind of, in Hollywood, they're fabulous, but I think that it can lead to a lot of terrible things. In general, I love parties. I love a dinner party. I love a party because of social dynamics. People are often at their best and their worst at parties, especially like there's nothing like a snub, especially from someone who's supposed to be your friend. That will color things for years to come, and you can hold on to a grudge. Parties are great.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great answer. That was a really good answer.
Be careful at parties. Be responsible.
Yeah.
I'm not encouraging any terrible behavior.
No, the schools we go to,
Yeah,
there's
no.
no drinking.
Yeah, no.
So I literally did not drink in high school or college. So yeah, I drank in Germany because it was legal. I would like to,
And it's not a big thing.
and it's not a big thing.
Yeah.
So in fairness, I drank in college after I was 21, and I'm not just being a goody two shoes. I was boring. I was very boring, and terrified of being expelled. So
Yeah.
Scholarship student.
Scholarship student.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, just heads up, we're closing at 6 tonight.
All right, thank you.
We got 2 minutes left. Thank you so much for your time
Yes.
today. It was wonderful to meet you. Your book was really good.
And I actually have books for you guys finally.
Oh, did you bring them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we get them signed?
Yes, in fact, that very easy.
And you guys are special. I have never told the COVID motor change story yet.